Have you ever really been hungry for fried chicken, but you didn't want to take the time to get out the deep fryer or to get a skillet and put it on the stove and make all that mess? Well, that's kind of the way I was this week. So I had a hunger and desire to make oven fried chicken. Here are all the ingredients, and we're going to get started. The most important, critical part of this recipe is just getting your seasoning right. And we have some simple seasoning. I think most of this you'll have in your pantry at home. I have granulated onion, or you could use onion powder, granulated garlic, or you can use garlic powder, paprika, which is going to give it a little kick. You're going to cut back on that. If you want more of a kick, use a little bit of cayenne pepper. I like that in mine. Kosher salt, and then just pepper, ground pepper. I'm not going to bore you with trying to mix all these together, but I'm going to tell you what the ratio is on all of these. So when I mix ingredients like this, I usually use a 1-to-1 ratio. That means if I have a cup of that, I'll have a cup of this. Now on the spicier things, I'll cut it back to half, like a half a cup, or this maybe a fourth of a cup. And then I'd have a cup of pepper and a cup of salt. And then I'd thoroughly blend all those together. Then I would taste those and make certain that the flavor profile is exactly the way I want it. If you're gonna make a small batch, it'd be like a tablespoon to a tablespoon to a tablespoon of these ingredients, and adjust them accordingly. I don't like it when people take their chicken and they take a little bit of each one of these ingredients and just sprinkles on top. I don't think it gives you a good coverage, a good consistent even coverage. So we're gonna do it the right way, mix all those up together. Now we're gonna season some chicken. So we're gonna season this chicken up here. I'm gonna stick it in a bowl, and I keep one dry hand and one wet hand at all time. That's my wet hand. I'm gonna take my seasoning, I'm gonna hold it up here high so I don't drop everything into one spot, and get that nice and seasoned on both sides. It's better if you can do this a couple hours in advance and let it kind of marinate a little bit, or let it kind of dry brine a little bit. And one thing I like to do, I did not do with this chicken. Usually I like to brine it in a brine overnight of salt water and maybe a little sugar. If you want to, you can take this, put it in a plastic bag, stick it in the refrigerator for a few hours, and then we're going to come back and we're going to mix up our seasoning, our breading that's going to go on this chicken. Be right back. We've let our chicken marinate a little bit in that seasoning. I'm going to put a little bit of avocado oil on these sheet pans, and we're going to stick these in the oven. I'm not going to put parchment paper or anything down on this. I'll just kind of suck it up and clean these later. I just think it works out better this way. I'm going to spread that oil out. I don't have it on there real thick, just enough to coat the pan a little bit. And we're going to get these things hot in the oven while we're breading our chicken. This is a very important step. Don't neglect this, because it will give you much better, crisper chicken. Okay, we have a lot going on. This is my seasoning. I'm going to go ahead and generously sprinkle it into my flour over here. Give me that extra little seasoning that I want. Notice how I have two pans here. We're going to have one with flour. This one we're going to put our breadcrumbs in it. These are just plain breadcrumbs. You can use panko, whatever you want to use. Then we come back to our chicken, and we're going to do something like that I do with barbecue. Whenever I cook barbecue, I always use mustard as a binder on the barbecue before putting my seasoning on it. We're going to go ahead and put mustard on this, and it's not going to really affect the taste too much. All right, now we're ready to start our breading process. Here's what I like to do when I'm breading. We're going to do a light breading on this today. It won't be too heavy. What we're going to do is I always like to put my flour or my breading on one end of the pan, and take the thing that I'm breading and put it on the other end, and then just take that and fold over on it like so, because if I take all this here and put it on top of there, it's going to become lumpy after a little while. Now, this chicken's pretty dry. It was pretty dry. Now, someone's asking the question, do you wash chicken before you cook it? Absolutely not. According to the current health standards, and that have been out for many, many years, they don't advise you to wash your chicken or to rinse it before cooking it, because they've proven that it can spread bacteria to much greater capacities. I didn't wash this. It's pretty dry. I'm going to put this over here. That's my wet hand. Here's my dry hand over here. And this is going to be a light coating of breadcrumbs. We're cooking this very light today. Now, one thing you can do if you want to have a little heavier breading on it is you can get some eggs and do an egg wash, and So what you do is you dip this into the flour, then you dip this into the egg, then you would dip that into the breadcrumbs, and that would give you a heavier, thicker coating. I'm going for a light coating today. We're going to pull these preheated sheet pans out of the oven, and be careful, they're very hot. Go ahead and shut your oven, just do one at a time. We don't want to lose any heat there. And we're going to separate these out between the thighs. You can hear that sizzle right there. I'm going to cook skin side down first. We want that to be our best presentation side. And I meant to actually take a little bit more seasoning and put on that, so let me do that real quick. I love a good chicken thigh. I think that's one of the finest pieces of meat on the chicken. They're always moist. It's hard to overcook a chicken thigh. Skin side down. We're going to turn those in about 30 minutes. Pull this one out. We're going to do our chicken legs over here. And here's how I like to arrange those chicken legs. I don't like to do it this way, fat to fat. Turn the leg around. Sprinkle a little more on top. I think that's good. And these are going in the oven. Remember, that pan's hot, so it's been in the oven. So 1 hour, about 30 minutes, we're going to come back and check the thighs. 20 minutes, we're going to come back and check the legs. And while all that's going on, we're going to clean up our mess. So pull this out of the oven. We're going to go ahead and turn it over here, and flip it over and brown both sides. Go ahead. Be sure to keep your oven door shut while you're doing this. Pull the chicken out of the oven. I'm going to take my trusty little thermometer, stick it right in the middle here. I'm looking for at least 165 degrees. I like 175 on my thighs. That's 189 right there. Leave it about 10 or 15 seconds. Just make certain we're getting the proper reading. I'm going to check several pieces. I don't see any blood coming to the surface there. Read that upside down. That's 180. Pretty good. There, 194. Come over here and check this one. 193. I always like to check all the chicken, because it doesn't really cook evenly. So yeah, those are all looking really good. So I'm going to set those aside, pull my legs out here. See when that meat pulls away from the bottom of the bone there? Some people say that's a good indication that it's done, and I think it's a pretty good indicator, but I always check with a thermometer. Take that, pull it apart from the bone. Look, it's perfectly cooked. So I'm comfortable with this. I think we're doing good here. So we're good to go. There you have it, oven fried chicken in the flash. No fuss, no mess. It was quite easy, and it's going to be so delicious. Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button there, thumbs up. Tell your friends about the channel. But remember, above everything this week, not only love to cook, as we love doing this today, but cook to love. I'm John Woods, and I'll see you next week here on All Things Food.